Okay, good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the McIntosh County Board of Education's work session, December 6, 2021. If you would, please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Our Father God, we do thank you and praise you for this day. God, we continue to thank you and give you praise for your many, many blessings. We ask you to continue to bless our school system, continue to give us guidance and wisdom, that we'll make the best decisions for our school system. And then we pray for its safety and our students and staff. In your Son Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yep. All right, our next item, number 3, that will be next week. We'll recognize our REACH scholars. Okay, at 5:30 here in the front lobby. Okay, and item number 4, citizens address the board. Do we have anyone? No one signed in.
If you don't mind, Madam Chair, just as we get to that part, that I would like to introduce Dr. Stewart's here from the high school. She's part of our Leadership Academy. So like we did for the others, we introduced everybody. So I wanted the board to meet Dr. Stewart.
Okay.
Hello, Dr.
Okay, item number 5 is approval of our work session agenda. We have all of our items before us. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Ms. McDonald, second.
Second.
Mr. McIver. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. All right, I'll turn over to Dr. Poulos for our items of information.
Good evening, everyone. Start right off with our Goal Area 1 student success. Just to inform the board, the high school is undergoing their EOCs. If you recall, we've moved to block scheduling, and so rather than having those tests taken in late April and May, we now are taking those both in December and as well as we'll be doing them again in May, so as students take those courses. So last week they took the ELA or the literature course. I think that's 3 parts, and then they took the algebra part, and now this week they're doing history and I believe biology. Is that correct, Mr. McNair? All right, so once that's done, we've implemented this procedure protocol that if they don't pass, they have to take it again. So and it's 30% of their overall grade. That has significantly helped us in making sure that students understand the importance of that test. So this is new to us because it's a semester change, but I want to bring that to everybody's attention. Next item on here, purchase of Chromebooks. I believe we're fortunate to receive through our E-rate 2 things, one of which was this purchasing of fully paid for through E-rate 800 Chromebooks. Hard to turn away 800 Chromebooks, and basically the only charge we pay is we pay for our consultant. And so that's pretty significant. And then the second part of that under item 3 is the access to broadband, internet access. So, Rusty, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but through this same E-rate, 100 students or families or households eligible to receive up to $100 in connectivity. So, we're going to get the word out, start prioritizing, but that is a huge incentive, and, I'm a firm believer that having broadband in the home is an equalization issue. That brings everyone to parity in their academics. It's one thing to get on this little thing right here and start accessing, but to be able to actually pull it up at the same speed as everybody else and watch it in the same clarity, that's truly equity. And so this is a big deal. We're going to get moving. We've talked to David Stevens already from Darien Telephone about how to get this taking place here in McIntosh. Anything else on that, Rusty, that I might have missed?
Well, these Chromebooks, will they replace the ones we have?
They will replace our oldest Chromebooks.
The oldest, okay.
We'll run a cycle so that we know when they come out, because usually they're good for 3 to 4 years,
right,
and then they're no longer good for testing and things of that nature. Anything else I might have missed on that? Okay. Any other questions on items 1, 2, or 3? Item 4 is of interest, and so what I'd like to do, in your packets, you'll find some information regarding Senate Bill 226 and House Bill 516, and both of them reference an obscenity law. So last year during legislative session, the Senate actually passed the Senate Bill 226, but the House did not get to it, and so the House Bill 516 is a little different. And so let me just draw to your attention why this is such a significant bill, both of these. One is that it provides that clarification, criteria, expectations for schools on how to bring in material, specifically to make sure that it's not offensive to others and that it might send a wrong message about the community values within your school system. And so in there are procedures, but also there's a coverage regarding whether or not it's applicable to another law that is actually criminal. If you provide pornographic material or things that could have gone along the line with that. House Bill 516 is very short and sweet, and basically what it says is that the obscenity law that is in place already, right now there's an exception to it that it doesn't apply to school systems. This one, if it comes in play, will say it is, and it does apply to school systems. So if a media center specialist, for example, provides a book in the media center that somebody might find objectionable, it might be sexual in nature or something that is offensive to somebody, literally if it meets the tone and the spectrum of that law, could turn around and have charges filed if House Bill 516 is actually passed. That has been a point of contention. Again, that was last legislative session, but the legislative session's picking back up here soon, and we do expect that these two bills are going to be entertained again. I have met with all the media specialists and said, look, here's what you need to be worried about. But in your packet as well, that same packet, you'll find some list of books, material that school systems around us in Georgia and in other states that are in their media centers that have already been identified and determined to be objectionable by parents or other stakeholders. Now, my take on a lot of this is this. We need to have good procedures in place for accepting any material into your school, into the media center regardless. So that includes a screening process. And typically when you order books, they come in stacks. And so a lot of the publishers will slide a book in there that they need to get sold. And so the same process, though, and this is why this is such a precarious situation, is you don't want the ability for anybody at any time just to come in and say, you shouldn't have that book in your media center. Because there are a lot of different reasons. It might be objectionable to one, but not to another. It might still have an educational value to it. I can sit there and quote many books that have been removed by schools throughout the country that, you and I grew up on. But somebody has deemed them as offensive. And so this is going to be a hot ticket in the legislative session this year. But you look at some of those titles and
So some of these are in libraries? Or?
In libraries, not necessarily in our libraries. Okay,
No,
so let me
no,
make sure
no.
we're clear on that.
Yeah. Yeah, not in ours.
Yes.
Wow.
So but you look at that, and here's the other thing that I asked the media specialists to do the other day, is I want them to go look at their inventory and to report back and say, do we have any of these books? And if you do, I need to know. Now, I will say this, because it's imperative, it's a First Amendment issue as well. We can't just say take them out. You have to have a procedure and a protocol to determine whether or not those books should be removed. But first thing is, make sure you're checking them before they get put in your media center. Second is, if somebody objects to them, we have to have a viable way for somebody to complain about it, bring it to the attention, and then determine whether or not an appeal process. Because if you watched what's going on in Fairfax County in Virginia, some of these same books that we're talking about were in there. And if school board listened to some parents actually read parts of some of these pieces of literature, And they were offensive. And the board sat and said, you can't say that, basically, in this session, but it's permissible in the school. That doesn't make any sense. So we're taking this head on. We do expect that if this law gets passed, that most likely it'll be more in line with Senate Bill 226, and which says let's establish good policy and procedure. It makes a lot more sense. But the whether or not it's determined to be an actual criminal act, that's going to be debated. That's going to be debated. So I see some smiles based on the topics, the titles that are in there. It'll alarm anyone. Any questions on that at all? I figured that you all needed to hear about it, so that I've already started seeing things on Facebook in other communities that are already talking about, can you believe this book is in such place, and you know, clearly could be considered by most people in a community to be offensive.
Wow.
So we're trying to get ahead of it on this point, and I'll report back to you on any of these books that may or may not be in the media centers. And that's just from two different sources, those books. I would suspect that we'll probably start getting more and more added to this list as we go. Any comments, anybody? Keep smiling. All right, next item up there. Board of Education meeting dates for 2022. Obviously, that just starts next month, so you'll see the dates that have, we've already sent these out to everybody to look at, see if there are any problems in any of it. Spend the week, if you will, to make sure we can deconflict anything. But if everybody's good with those, then Monday of next, if we can vote on them and we can put them in place and get the notices out to everybody. All right. Any questions on those? The minutes have been posted as well. If you'll take a few minutes at some point, read through them. If you have any changes to those, if you'll bring those to my attention or to Ms. Lane's, then we'll adjust those as necessary. At this point, if I could ask Ms. Franklin under Goal Area 2-3 to discuss the November 21 financial reports.
Sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say real quick, I'm sorry. On the meeting dates, if you'll look, there's a few of them that we have a Thursday meeting because of holidays. So if you'll just kind of pay attention to those, make sure they don't have a conflict, because no one we usually meet on Mondays, just if you'll look at those Thursdays. Okay, sorry, Miss Tammy.
On page 1, the general operating account, November 30, 2021, we had a beginning cash balance on November 1st of $950,577. We had receipts of $2.8 million, and we had disbursements of $1.7 million, leaving us with an ending balance on November 30th of $2.1 million. And on to page 26. That's true. Revenue, general fund revenues, we are 41.6% completed through the school year, and we have received $4.2 million in general fund revenues, which is 29.27% of our budgeted $14.5 million in revenues. Expenditures, we have posted $4.6 million in general fund expenditures, which is 31.6% of our budgeted $14.6 million in general fund expenditures. And fund balance on page 33. We have a general fund balance of $1.9 million. Okay. And on to page 100, school nutrition. The school nutrition account has $105,000. Page 110, the local projects account. There is just over $1 million in our local projects account. Debt service. We had SPLOST receipts of $138,280 for November, which is up 24.5% from November 2020 collections. And we have a balance in the debt service account of $277,000. Finally, the energy efficiency lease debt service account. We have just over $1,000 in it, and the transfer has taken place. We have moved from Huntington Bank to Bank of the Ozark, and I have requested that they reimburse us this money, and we will put that into our local debt service account, and we will just pay the Bank of Ozark when they bill us in the summer for our September 1st lease payments. Any questions over any of that?
Just to ask a question on this, when our next payment for the energy lease will be in September, so a long time from now, but it's still mostly interest.
Yes.
So I think it's not even 500,000 or close to that, so we should be fine building up money to pay for that. All right, any questions of Ms. Franklin? I would note on the next line is item 4, as I told the board that we would be undergoing our annual financial audit. And so first day back after Thanksgiving break, the auditors were sitting in the conference room digging into all of our stuff. So they spent the week here. They had 3 auditors, and the on-site portion of it is now passed. It was a pretty good review. And Tammy, anything you'd like to say about it? I mean, it was...
I asked them for updates, and they said that everything was looking good so far, but they'll continue. Hopefully, they'll wrap it up by the beginning of January.
Yeah. So now all the things back, they're asking for different explanations on different things. But as I've mentioned before, and I'm making public, the concern that's out there amongst superintendents is that the auditors are looking at things differently than the budget people at the DOE. And so the DOE gives us an approved budget and says this is acceptable and you can use the money for this. The auditors have determined that they don't read it that way. And so there are some school systems out there really concerned about, well, we spent it on this because the budget said we could, and they're concerned that they might be asked to repay that money. So
Was this of the CARES Act money?
that's the CARES Act
Yes.
money. That's the CARES Act money. So that's been a point of contention. I know that the governor's office has been involved in it specifically because it's so big of an issue. One of the school systems talked about spending $2 million to add classrooms. Well, if it's not acceptable, they might have to pay back $2 million in money that's not federal. So I think we did well. That's basically covered most of CARES 1 and a little bit of 2, but we still have next year they'll start looking at CARES 2 and 3, and we'll have that under our belts.
Yeah, this is a huge issue, Dr. Poulos. It's just not fair to the school districts. It's not. I mean, you did everything you were supposed to do. You submitted these budgets to Atlanta. They were approved. They were signed off on, checked off on, and now suddenly the game's changing. And it's just not fair to local districts, especially our size. I mean, we allocated that money exactly like they told us we could.
That's right.
And now the rules are changing on the game when you're almost done. And that's just not right.
And I tell you that, not to be overly concerned, because I do believe we've done our due diligence. We've done what we're supposed to here in McIntosh, but you never know. So I'd rather you be informed that there could be a potential of it. But I know there's some other school systems that are very worried about what they've done. So we'll see how things unfold, especially as now the governors try to get both the auditors and the DOE in the same room and say what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on that? Next item up here is I just want you to be aware of our bus fleet, and it kind of goes right hand in hand with this federal money that we received. You go to that first spreadsheet. When we received this money, we said, great, we're going to be able to take care of our dying, aging fleet and have new buses. And at that point, they came back and said, no, basically the auditor said you can have 2. So we need, and you'll see here, look at the data that's there. The top portion of those are our newer buses. And so, we're still already putting a lot of miles on them because those are the ones that are reliable. So those are the ones we have to take now out of town on the sporting trips or the field trips and things of that nature. So, the ones that are at the top there, those are the ones that are used on a day-to-day basis for the routes. The ones on the bottom are our spares. But look at the mileage on some of our spares. I mean, you're talking 267,000 miles. All of these vehicles have something that needs to be repaired on them. Go to that next sheet, if you will. So 14 routes, 8 numbers or spares, 22. We got rid of, excess-wise, I think 5 buses. So we're sitting at a pretty decent number. But 7 of them have AC and 7 of them don't in South Georgia. So again, that's a concern. 4 of those are under 5 years. 5 of them are between 6 and 10, and 5 of them are 10 years or older. Well, you know what happens with older buses. They start breaking down. So the oldest route bus is 18 years old, and the average mile is 131,000. Now, that may not seem to be a lot, but when you hit some of these dirt roads, it takes a good wear and tear on those vehicles. And then you have one that's 240,000 miles already on a route bus. We talked earlier about getting one of the microbuses to do some of the small routes. So if any questions on the buses that we stand right now, we do, if we get another bond bus, great. We're going to plan for putting aside money for a bond bus. We've asked and we'll continue to ask to say, free up some of that federal money so that we can get buses. The next area underneath this same is our request to, can you go to that microbus bid? We talked about a microbus. A microbus is basically, it's a van that is equipped with the arms and lights and everything else. And so the advantage of these microbuses, you can take 14 passengers and a driver, but you don't have to have a CDL. They have to be trained. They have to know how to use all the stuff, but it does not require that they go to the DMV and get an actual license. So that means a coach can run a small team here and there on it. It also means that, some of these small field trips that we take a large bus, that now you can use this for it. So it's going to come in handy for us. As we talked about, it's greatly needed, and this is one that I asked the board that could we approve this Monday, and that's basically taking the money out of our fund balance to pay that amount. Any questions on that? I'd love to get 2 or 3 more of these if money ever comes available, because I do believe that you could put one at the middle school and the high school and it'd be used almost every day.
And this is, of course, air conditioning.
And that's with air conditioner and all the other bells and whistles that come with it. Yes, sir.
$70,000 of this.
Yeah, there should be no need for us ever to try to purchase a vehicle that does not have air conditioning in South Georgia. But even though it does cost a little bit more, it's important. Mr. Massa, if you don't mind coming up, we're going to talk about a couple things here dealing with facilities, and I'm going to talk first about the kitchen renovations. And we have a construction manager. Construction manager is Tyson. They went out and solicited bids for the various parts of the construction. Came back, and a lot of what they came back with is new stuff. Okay, so just generally speaking, air conditioners, for example, at $300,000, $400,000 to put new air conditioners in. We don't need new air conditioners necessarily. The ones that are there are 5 years old, so that'll be adjusted down based on our need. Low voltage, we talked about. We have those rooms that we're about to occupy were full of internet cables, so we'll save money on that. Equipment for the kitchen. That was almost $400,000 in their estimate for new equipment. Well, we can forego some of that equipment and buy it later. But, if one of the things I told Mr. Tootin, having gone through this, I said, we'll buy the equipment and take it out of this. That way we're tax-free. That alone was $28,000. So, we're going to make this what it needs to be so it's cost-effective for us and fits in our budget, but gets what we want as well. And as I told Mr. Tootin, I said, we're not taking out the windows. The windows are needed. They really, this isn't a small little project. This is a long-term project for us that we want to do right. And as I've said, we've got bills that need to be paid for the next 20 years. We can't afford to go build another middle school right now, so we got to make this right. So next next board meeting, we should have that initial report whittled down to a more reasonable number, and we'll bring it, and the board can say yay or nay, we're willing to move forward with it. I do believe, and Ms. Franklin and I have gone through the numbers, we're financially in a position right now that we'll be able to take care of this kitchen project without any issues. Any questions at all about the kitchen project itself? I know we had a very good visit with those folks the other day. They came over, looked again, got up on the roof, looked at our air condition, looked at some of the light fixtures because, when ABM came in, they did replace some of those, so we can reuse a lot of those things. We don't need to go necessarily new and throw old stuff away, or the new stuff that's just been there for a few years. We don't need to throw that away if we can recycle good stuff, not just mediocre stuff. Mr. Monson?
Great evening, board. It's a pleasure to come before you tonight. And I'll just have a caveat to Dr. Poulos' presentation. The kitchen project is really exciting. The meeting with Mr. Tootin and his associates was very productive, and they were able to find a lot of ways to whittle that price down to, I think, what's going to be manageable, and we'll have a really top quality product when it's done. I'll take a look at item B on the list here is the timber completion report. We're really excited about having our timber cut. Again, just to remind you that we were in a position that it was on the decline, that the trees were too close together and we had to make a move, or it was in our best interest to make a move now. Out of that, from the high school alone, we earned $42,694.68, which I think was a great price. We hit the market at just the right time for chip and saw, and it worked out really well. At the middle school, we were able to, just in that little section, earn $6,623.40, and for a total of all trees cut down was $49,318.08. So it was very positive that we were able to get that money while the trees were in the state they were, because I believe every year that we waited, it was possible that it was going to even get lower. So it was a great project, and I'm looking forward to now the next step is finishing up, cleaning up what they've left there, and then replanting. I've gotten some contacts of people that replant. They're going to come out and do some surveying and looking at what we have and give us some estimates on the replanting of that. But that's in the goal, hopefully very soon, to be breaking ground there and starting next. It's a great opportunity for our forestry department, division there at the high school to really step in and learn a lot about the planting process. You know that pine trees in Georgia are a big thing, and even foresee some pine straw processes there. Any questions on the trees?
Mr. Moser, are we going to replant the triangle at the middle school, or is that going to be a parking lot?
Well, we've got some options there to beautify it. We're definitely going to make it look good, but right now, and this is my item D there, but I'll skip to it. What we're going to do to start off is have all the stumps ground down. We got a price on actually having them dug up and removed, and it was a considerable amount. We could get the same levelness and same look with grinding them down. So we have two estimates coming in. We'll have a gentleman who's getting me an estimate today, and then I've got a contact for a gentleman that I'll look at tomorrow. That should be well within the $6,000 that we made. So it should be a net, even exchange on that. But included in that, they're going to level it off, make it nice. That parking for the middle school with leisure service and even our middle school game they're all in those trees and everything. It could be a beautiful spot. Not only for that, our community. Often they're using our parking lots for various events downtown in Darien. They've asked even this year, can we use it? We have no problem with it, and our partnership with the county and the city is strong. But this would be another option too for a big venue to park with wide open expanses that's grass and some possible hardscape in there too.
Yeah, and I would just tell you that having watched them remove those trees, Georgia Power should be grateful that we did it. Those trees were leaning right into the power lines for the most part, and a good storm that would have caused some great damage. So the removal of those, and as Mr. Massa said, will help us, enhance us for that. It'll be net neutral as far as the expenses for replacing and getting everything about. But the other money that we receive for the ones at the high school, just as a reminder that we're looking at renovating the pond and replanting. So before we even think about using that for anything else, those were the criteria to get through that and make that all look nice the way it all should be by the time we're done. So we received, if you remember when we started the process, we estimated $30,000 to get out of the high school, and we ended up netting a little over 42. So that turned out good for us.
I'd like to take this opportunity to extend out a big thank you to the county, who was a tremendous help in getting this done. They put in roads, access roads to the 2 pieces of land that were required that weren't just a simple dirt dump. They put dirt in, covered it, then rocked it. It was a really professional and great job, and it was really saved us a lot of money, because to do that ourselves would have been a substantial amount. The rules and regulations for those access roads have expanded, and that was an awesome contribution to the county, and just shows our partnership is strong. In addition, I'd like to thank the city. The city has stepped up to the plate and said that they would help us with some debris removal of the limbs and stuff at the middle school. Again, a huge savings, and another opportunity to show that our partnership with the city and the county is strong, and we really appreciate it and want to say thank you for that. The next thing on my agenda is C, MCA painting. I'm really excited to say that the McIntosh County Academy has been painted from top to bottom, inside and out. There are only a few offices left and a few remote locations that our staff is going to get themselves. But every main classroom in the building has been painted, and as you know, all the hallways, all the way from the top to the bottom. We are now on a true 5-year cycle that will keep our schools looking great. It's a real pleasure to walk in there. You know how fresh paint is, and just walking in and there's not smudges on the walls, and everything's looking as nice as it is. So it was a very good process. We worked it during our breaks, minimal disruption to the teachers, and we still got it done. And I'm looking forward to the elementary school and then the middle school when they come back up in the rotation. Any questions about painting? Again, just a few offices left and a few little classrooms that we'll take care of ourselves. All right, solar panel projects. Oh, this has been a long time. We've been so excited about this solar project. We've gone through a lot of hoops and jumped through it. Everything is still in order. Everything's coming together, but supply chain is real. They are running into some complications just getting the materials on the ground. So our anticipated before the end of the year, before December is over, is going to be extended out a little bit more into January. Nothing that's going to affect us. They may have lost a few tax credits, but they're excited about getting the project going, and we should still see things on the ground here in the next week or so, and the project start. But the actual completion before the end of December is going to be a little bit longer. But again, everything's still in line. We're really pumped about it and can't wait to see this play out.
If you recall, basically we're going to be paying about 8 cents a kilowatt hour compared to what we currently pay, which is 11 cents, and that's going to start off. But all of the indications, if you've been watching the news, is electrical costs are going to go up. And so we might have got in at this right time. It'll be good. Good for us. Mr. Mouse, have you covered D? 6D?
Cleanup process at Oak Grove, yes. Oak Grove has been a storage unit for us for a while, and just this week we have already cleaned out, I believe it was 3 dumpster loads we got, 2 for sure, and I think they got a 3rd one, full of everything that was in there that was junk. We purposely went through months in advance. All the principals have had an opportunity to go through Oak Grove. We've marked everything, or have everything that was good in there. We've already pretty much scoured out. So the things that were just trash that needed to be gone, we're slowly but surely moving that out and getting it ready for a situation of possibly some remodeling at one end, and then, of course, demolishing the rest of it. So that's underway. It's been a great process. Not only did we get rid of a bunch of stuff, we also recycled a bunch. We took it down to the metal and earned some money back for that. So old filing cabinets, just, you can imagine 30, 40 years worth of stuff. We're clearing it out. So I would say that at least 3 or 4 rooms are pretty close to being 100% empty.
That was a catch-all for just about anything, that building. And so, again, cleaning that up was necessary. Even if we don't keep portions of it, eventually, if we raise that building, all that stuff's got to go regardless.
So we're systematically moving down that hallway and looking forward to seeing it cleared out. Everything should come together with this kitchen project and that, where we can make a real smooth transition to a beautiful front of McIntosh County Middle School.
All right, if barring any questions on goal area 2, if we can talk about goal area 3, which is culture and climate, COVID. Can you give a quick update on COVID?
COVID situation in the news, you hear that there's a new variant. Things are happening. However, here in McIntosh, haven't felt it yet. In the last 3 weeks, we've had 1 positive case of a young student. At this point, that's all we have is 1 student in the system. We are continuing with our COVID protocols. We're washing, hand sanitizing, doing all the little things that make a difference. Masks are optional, and some of the kids are still wearing them. I was pleasantly, or not pleasantly, but surprised to see as many of them that were wearing them till this point. So masks are still in play, hand sanitizing, social distancing, all those things are still a major part of our plan. We just can't get too complacent. Like Dr. Poulos says, we got to be alert because we know things are on the horizon. We got to just be ready for if anything were to come, and make adjustments as needed.
All right, if you'll stay right there, the next area, there's a request for a field trip to Orlando from the band. I believe it's April, but if you look at that, our field trip policy requires that anything that's over 300 miles overnight or out of state, and that meets all 3. So at Monday, if you'll look at it, and then if you have any questions, let me know, and we can vote on it so that they know they can or can't go on that trip. That's exciting. I was told that they did a great job at the Christmas parade, and they have a concert this week.
Yes, I had some good compliments about the Christmas parade.
Yep. Any questions on goal area 3, 1 or 2? All right, if we move to number 3, and this is important for me again to be upfront, making sure that the board's aware of potential issues. And so, Coach, could you step up and give us an overview of what is going on with Georgia High School and Class A?
We have a historical changes going on at the Georgia High School Association. That's the membership body that we belong to. I'm currently in my 7th year, serving my 7th year in the state of Georgia as an executive committee member. I represent 7 of our smallest schools on the coastal and coastal area, as well as all of coastal Georgia. I'm one of 3 reps that do that. I'm one of only 5 reps that represent the public sector of the football committee in the state. I'm getting old, I think.
Gray hair.
So, I don't know how much you've kept up with, but we have private schools that are in our state association, and they have a little bit of an unfair advantage at times with student athletes that they can bring in. So in terms of leveling that playing field, we separated several years ago public and private schools in playoff and region competition. Recently, 12 of those schools left and joined another association called the Georgia Independent School Association, GISA. We are the GHSA. We're recognized by the National Federation and the Georgia Department of Education. When they left, they have a right in our association to meaningful and quality competition is the way the law and rule reads. They went down to 26. Well, 26 doesn't fill a 32-man bracket. In playoffs, when you have hundreds of thousands of dollars of scholarships online, meaningful competition can weigh out in any sport, not just football, but any sport. So what the state decided to do to level the playing fields, they applied an attendance zone to the private schools. So they have the same attendance zone is their nearest public school. I picked one example close to us. Savannah Christian has Groves High School District. If they pull a kid out of that district, it doesn't count against them. But if they pull out of zone, there's a multiplier that has been applied to all 466 schools, high schools in the Georgia High School Association. That multiplier is 3.0. So if you currently have a student out of zone, then that student goes to a 3.0 multiplier to count 3 instead of 1. So let's say you have 100 students out of zone, which was what we're fussing about. Hey, this is not fair. You pulled 100 kids that aren't yours. We pull from McIntosh. All right, so they're pulling from Wilmington Island, other places around. So now if you have 100, your enrollment goes up 300. So now these schools that are claiming that they're single A, they're bumping up to double and triple and quad A, to represent their student bodies. So McIntosh County currently sits with about 300 FTE count of about 385 students. We were having to play schools with about 685. All right. There are other schools like Warren County who are playing with 180 students, playing against 680 schools with 680. So what does that mean? Well, in the upper classifications, let's say you have a school with 2,000 and a school with 2,500. There's only a 20% difference in those schools. Right? When you start getting up to 500 students in the lower classifications, you're dealing with upwards of a 50% mismatch in the sports. So what happened in single A, we decided to absorb all the private schools by applying the multiplier, and single A high schools now have an upper and lower split. So we are in Division II of single A, which is basically an 8 classification instead of 7. And then the larger single A schools are in Division I of single A athletics. So this has put us from being marginal in numbers in our classification to one of the bigger schools in our classification, which is awesome for our kids. It means we'll cycle through more talent than the smaller schools and not have to compete on the state level with schools that are twice our size.
So as it stands right now, the process is unfolding. I believe if I remember right, the appeals are taking place this week. Is that right?
Yes, sir. They're right now. Tomorrow is the deadline to file an appeal to move vertically. It means up or down in classification, and those appeals will be heard on Wednesday. On the 8th of December, all the schools in the state will be placed in classifications. Once that is done, you'll have to the 15th to move regions, basically. Maybe you want to play west instead of north. You have that option if you choose. Once that's finished, your classification will be done. You'll be picking up ball games in every sport.
And so when do we think that the final will be done?
There is a state legislative meeting January the 10th. We'll be finished with the Georgia Department of Education and the Georgia High School Association before the 10th. But we've been told there's going to be a bill introduced that could change that. So we'll know, I think, everything by the 10th.
So as it stands right now, do we believe that some of the private schools might be a little concerned about being bumped up, and do they have an ability to appeal?
They do have an ability to appeal, and yes, sir, they're squealing pretty good right now.
I imagine so.
It's nice to see. I'll use Calvary Day out of Savannah. They had 269 kids out of zone. That's almost as big as our whole school. That's not counting the local kids are there, so they almost bumped up to they might have bumped to AAA.
Yeah, but they're a school that has turf and a lot of other money that goes into it, so that doesn't. Yeah.
This level the playing field for your smaller county schools, your rural schools, your 1 2 red hot towns that really helped us. We're in that category.
Good.
It came out very well.
Again, because it goes on and there will be some concern, you'll hear something in the community. I just wanted you to get a briefing on it so you understood what's unfolding.
We led the state last year in scholarship money in some areas. And for our kids to be now on a better playing field, a more level playing field, with a spotlight on the big for our community.
Great. All right. Any questions?
Which one you said decide on regions?
The regions will come out December the 8th, and appeals will be on the 15th, I think. 15th. It's been changing daily, so.
Right.
There were no appeals yesterday, and now there's a page full.
Let me ask you this. So when you make the playoffs, do you get money from the state or you just get gate money? How does it work?
It's a road game or a home game.
Right.
You actually make more money on the road right now than you do at home.
But you don't have to pay officials.
Yeah, those are,
Yeah.
you do pay officials, but
Yeah.
the visiting team gets $5 per mile to come play in the playoffs. And they also get 50% of your gates. So you can do the math any way you want, and you're going to lose money off of home game. So we made more money in Mitchell County than we did hosting.
Yeah.
And that's how football works, but other sports have a little different calculation.
Not all of them are $5.
Right.
Some of them are 50 cents a mile to $2 a mile, but you make more money right now on the road.
Yeah.
But you lose the hometown experience.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you, Coach, for coming in. We appreciate what you do.
Thanks.
All right, I do have some executive session once we get into executive session, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Just if you don't mind, if I can cover these other three in goal area 5 under community engagement. This Thursday's band concert, 6:30 at MCA. So if you get an opportunity to come out, I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised by the progress made by the band. They've done a great job. As mentioned previous, we have the mammogram mobile coming. It's coming tomorrow. It'll be at Todd Grant. You know, that was one of the things that was coordinated, and it benefits the entire community, not the school system. And then if you can pull up the radio ads for the playoff. Again, when we went to Mitchell County, that was 4 hours. That was a long trip. And so we knew that we would not have the ability to really have a lot of our spectators there. And, you know, athletes require support. And I think we were very fortunate that through iHeartRadio, we were able to provide radio coverage. But it cost us a little bit of money. And I'd just like to mention, these are the individuals or the entities that contributed to pay for the radio covers that we had. And I think it's worthy of noting the contributions that they made that made that possible for families and friends that were not able to actually go to the game in Mitchell and to listen to the game. And a lot of positive things came out of that. So we appreciate the contributions they made, and just even if it might have been $20 or $300, that camaraderie and that just vested interest in the community goes a long way. So, and I'd like to thank the board for their contribution as well in supporting that. All right, Madam Chair, I don't have anything else on the regular schedule to look at. I do have a personnel and potential legal.
Okay. All right. So could I have a motion to go to executive session for personnel and legal?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Hewlett. Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Straggles. All those in favor? No one's opposed. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we will be back. Can you come back to order, please? Okay, the McIntosh County Board of Education had adjourned to executive session to discuss legal and personnel. Can I have a motion to return to open session?
Motion.
Okay, Mr. McIver. Second.
Second.
Ms. McDonald. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Any board comments?
I've got one or a couple. We said earlier in the meeting that the band concert is Thursday, 6:30, correct, at MCA?
Yes, sir.
I tell you, the band has come a long way.
Yes.
They sound good. I know at the football game, when we played Manchester, the playoff game, they sounded real good. So they are doing a fine job with those students. And so since we're on TV here with the camera, I just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and be safe and have a Happy New Year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Likewise, I would wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Really excited to be finishing up this year and the success that we've had in our system, the progress that we've made, and certainly echo the support of the band, and also Another thought that came to mind is our FFA ag program has had tremendous success at a couple of competitions recently. Won first place in one and just did exceptionally well. So Mr. DeVerger is doing a great job with that program, and the kids really are enjoying it, getting a lot out of it. So we're not a huge ag county, but that particular competition was like all of South Georgia. I mean, it was a massive area, and for us to excel and win a first place placement there was exceptional. So we appreciate that.
Okay, and I'll also wish everyone a Merry Christmas and be safe. And the band last night, I did get to see the band in the Christmas parade. They did a very good job. I was very pleased. It's amazing in such a short time how well they're doing. So I'm excited to see how things go this next year. Maybe they'll pick up a few more students, but it was very good. Cindy?
Well, I would just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and very thankful that we've had a nice school year, a smooth school year, despite COVID, and would like to reiterate my appreciation on our school system and our staff and the COVID rules and guidelines and what they have gone and the lengths they've gone to keep our students safe. And I would also like to congratulate our Reach Scholars. I think this is our 5th year for Reach Scholars, and they will be recognized next Monday night at the board meeting. And wonderful kids. All our kids are great, and I just think it's awesome. Thank you.
All right. I guess I'm last. Also, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all, and hope that you all will continue to do what you do best, and that's to make sure that our kids get the quality of education that they need. And it comes from not only just our teachers, but it comes from the parents as well. So we just want to continue to do that and continue to do what you do best. Thank you.
I'd just like to take a moment just to thank the staff and faculty. Again, just a tremendous effort. The progress that we're making, you know, if it weren't for COVID, we would just be extremely up. So I'm really grateful for the support, the resources that we have, and for just the pure selfless service that everybody's out there just working so hard right now to get through. They're working to make sure we give the best opportunity possible for our students to succeed. And wish everybody a happy holiday season, and please be safe.
Okay, Richie?
Yeah, again, just want to say Merry Christmas, and I'd like to say to this board and administration and faculty and staff, the hard work that you all do that are sometimes behind the scenes and never come to light. The parents don't know about it, the public doesn't know about it, but decisions that you make and the work that this administration and faculty and staff have done, I know I appreciate it. And if the public knew everything you do, I know they would too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
We
right.
appreciate you too.
Yes,
We
we
do.
Thank
All
you.
right. I guess that's it. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Doctor.